Okay, I am going live. How's it going, folks? Chuck Holton here, coming to you from the Airport Lounge in Newark, New Jersey. And I just have a little bit before I have to go catch my other plane. But, I've been doing some research and some reading on the ways that, just this follow the money idea. If you follow the money, you can find out things that will just blow your mind, especially if you start to follow your own money and see where your own money goes and what it goes to support. And I was so disgusted by what I found when I was researching the video I did the other night about how U.S. money is going to support terrorism, U.S. taxpayer dollars. It is going to support militancy and extremism in almost all of the enemies of Israel. So we're giving $3.6 billion a year to Israel to help them fight this war, but we're also giving money to all the people they're fighting and essentially ensuring that we will have nonstop war forever over there. Because when you're funding both sides, there's no reason for either side to quit fighting, because then that would kill the golden goose, so to speak, right? So I was just so disgusted by that. And if you want to go watch that one, you can go over to that to the video I did the other night, the other live I did, talk about where I talked about all that and kind of get up to speed. But going down that rabbit hole has made it worse for me, because now I'm completely blown away by the ridiculous, whoops, what did I do? I'm completely blown away by the ways that we choose to give our money that ends up supporting extremism, and we don't even know it. So I'll explain to you what got me started on this in a minute, but I want you, this is not going to be a long live, so stick around, and I will, explain everything quickly and then try to get out of here, okay? But somebody asked here, why did you leave Israel? Were you in danger? No, I left Israel because I had only planned to be there a month, and I stayed a month, and so I left. But okay, so let's talk about some of what the things I've found, some of the ways I've found that charities and NGOs have been shown to have links to extremist organizations. Okay? I'm trying to avoid using the word terrorist, because if I use that too much in one of these videos, it gets demonetized. So I'm just going to use militants or extremists, but you know what I'm talking about. So as I went searching for charities that have possible or proven links to these extremist organizations, almost all of the ones virtually every single one that I found was linked in some way to the Palestinian cause. This is pretty amazing. Now, I've in the past followed the money like this and have found very strong links from U.S. taxpayer money going to, or U.S. charitable money, just individuals giving money to charities that are going to environmental extremist organizations. These are the guys who go out and set housing developments on fire that are under construction, or chain themselves to trees, or spike trees so that they'll harm loggers that come to cut down the trees and things like that. I found very strong, provable links between charities like the Sierra Club and these violent extremist organizations that have to do with environmentalism. I also found ways that these extremist organizations were able to write themselves grants from the U.S. government and get U.S. taxpayer money given to them under things called environmental justice grants. So this is pervasive throughout our society and definitely throughout our government. And so it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are other charities that have to do with other causes that we probably should not be supporting, who have figured out ways to game the system and have, are taking advantage of American goodwill to support causes that Americans definitely would not want to support by and large. Americans are the most charitable people group on planet Earth, bar none, by an order of magnitude. Especially American Christian conservatives, give more money, volunteer more time, even give more blood than any other group of people on planet Earth. And that has been proven. There's a very good book about it if you want to read about that. It's called Who Really Cares? And it was written by a Stanford professor who set out to prove that Democrats care more about the poor and the needy than conservatives do, ended up proving exactly the opposite, and proved it so convincingly that he himself became a conservative because of that. So it's a very good book. I highly recommend you read it. But let's talk about some of the ways that different charities are using money that is supposed to go to help, like children, for example, and using it to actually support extremist activity that is highly threatening to our allies, especially Israel. Here's 5 just off the top of my list here. The Defense for Children International is an organization which has various different, they work in various countries, but specifically their arm called DCIP, Defense for Children International Palestine, is an organization that's been accused of being operated for the benefit of the Palestine Front for or the People's Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, which is a known terror organization. Okay, and they're raising money ostensibly to defend the children. And if you look on their website, there's all these poor children, defend the poor children. And then they're giving their money to the people who are making those children have to live in the environment they live in. How about this one? Union of Agricultural Work Committees. That doesn't sound too bad. It actually sounds very communist to me. But, any kind of workers' party or whatever. But it's they say they provide agricultural services to the Palestinians. Well, no, they just give their money to the PFLP. And so because of that, they themselves, the Union of Agricultural Work Committees, has been designated as a T organization by Israelis, by the Israeli government because of its connections there. There's another one called Al-Haq, H-A-Q, which is a human rights organization that's also been designated. It's a designated T entity by Israel. And more allegations of facilitating PFLP activities and employing individuals with ties to other groups like Hamas. Adamir is a Islamic advocacy group specifically focusing on advocating for prisoners, but they've also been implicated in recruiting for various militant and extremist organizations inside the West Bank or Gaza or places like that. And one other one is this is again, they use women and children as their weapons. The Union of Palestinian Women's Committees, UPWC, again linked to the PFLP, Hamas, accused of providing funding to those groups and employing individuals from those groups. Those are just 5 that I found in a quick search, just looking for groups that have connections. Now, all of these groups have one thing in common. They are, hey, thank you very much, T. Valkyrie. I appreciate that. All of these groups have one thing in common, and that is that they are very highly left-leaning politically. So these are all kind of lumped in with groups that are pushing for socialist communism, socialism, communism, things like that. One of the things that you'll find no matter where you go in the world is that anytime you get around socialists, they're going to be involved in really shady things like this. Socialism is about imposing, uh, lowest common denominator mediocrity on the world. And they don't believe in doing it through the democratic process, especially in the United States. They believe in doing it through achieving it through force and through coercion and through underhanded dealings. You can go read their own literature, rules for radicals and things like that, and you'll see they want to weaponize the goodwill of people against them. And this is how they do it. They use women, they use children. Oh, help the children. Give to the Defense for Children International. Well, guess what? The Defense for Children International is actually funding Hamas and PFLP and PIJ and those guys. And all of them are very, very far left wing. This is why you see the hard left in the United States supporting the Palestinian organizations. These guys are all birds of a feather. And the reason why every time I go to a protest, you don't just see, if it's a pro-Palestinian protest, you don't just see people there protesting for Palestine. You see them protesting for LGBTQ rights, abortion rights, anti-gun, women's women's feminism, stuff like that, socialism, straight up, because all of these groups are connected. And so they're very highly left-wing affiliated groups. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. These 5 groups I just gave you are being funded not just by donations from individuals, which, you can't really say much about. If somebody wants to give their money to a group like that, I don't necessarily think we should stop them, but obviously many people who give to those things give out of the generosity of their hearts because they want to help the children, and they don't realize that that money is actually being siphoned off and given to these extremist organizations. But on top of the individual donations they get, these people get millions of dollars given to them by UN bodies, including bodies like UNICEF. So you've probably heard about UNICEF, right? I remember when I was in the military, we used to be encouraged very strongly to give to UNICEF, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. Well, that sounds like a good thing to give to. How many of you, let's take a show of hands, how many of you have given to UNICEF at one time or another? And how many of you, when you gave to them, had no idea that the UN at the beginning of UNICEF was for the United Nations? I just thought UNICEF, United Fund for Helping Children, whatever. I just thought it was something like that. When I was a sergeant in the Army and I was being encouraged to give money to UNICEF every month, I didn't realize that UNICEF was part of the United Nations. I probably wouldn't have wanted to give to them if I did. And so you go to their official website and it's UNICEF. It's got a picture on the front of a poor girl, and then smiling children and everything. And it's choose children over politics. That's their motto. Choose children over politics. UNICEF, donate to help the children is the description on their website. Go to their website. Help children now, it says. Give once, give them, right? And they, I have no idea, but I can look it up real quick. What is UNICEF yearly budget? UNICEF gets, oh my Okay, I didn't realize it was so much. UNICEF's budget from 2022 to 2025 is $31.9 billion. 30, almost $32 billion. They're getting more than about $10 billion a year given to them by people like you and me. Okay, so this is absolutely mind-boggling, because when you start looking at how UNICEF spends its money, well, guess what? Some of it goes to the Defense for Children International Palestine, that group I was just telling you about. Not only that, UNESCO, their human rights fund gives money to DCIP. So they are the United Nations organizations, UNICEF, UNESCO. These sound like good things we should be helping. We should be giving to them. And now we're finding that they are giving our money, the money that was donated to them, and the money that gets given to them by the U.S. taxpayer, because it's a public-private partnership, right? They get both. Some of that money, at least, is going to support extremist organizations. Now, there's also there's a joint funding mechanism called the Human Rights and International Humanitarian Law Secretariat, which gives contributions from Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, Netherlands, and they provided substantial funding to DCIP and has supported other NGOs like that with similar missions. You wonder why Norway, for example, decided to recognize Palestine as a state. Well, they've been giving money to these organizations for a long time. And so they are, and again, they're much further to the left than your average conservative American would be. And look, Norway, Finland, countries like that, they're way farther down the road towards outright socialism than we are in the United States. And a lot of people in the United States on the left cite countries like Norway, Finland, Denmark, and say, we need to be more like them. Sweden, yeah, we need to be more like them. No, maybe we don't need to be more like them. They also support the boycott, divest, and sanctions movement. If you're not familiar with that, BDS is a worldwide movement to try to get everybody to stop buying anything from Israel and to sanction Israel, to basically just choke them off economically. And there are a lot of companies in the United States that are part of the BDS movement. There are a lot of colleges that have joined the BDS movement. And there's been also some pushback on that. I was there in Israel when the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, came to Jerusalem and signed a treaty with Israel that they to forbid his state, Maryland, from employing anything that had to do with the BDS movement, and to strengthen their economic ties with Israel. So there are others who are going against that. But guess who else supports some of these charities that are funding extremist organizations? The European Union is giving them money. Various other European governments are giving them money. Sweden, Spain, countries like that. They're often allocated to projects that are supposed to protect children's rights and address humanitarian needs. But as we've seen in spades in Gaza, these organizations that are ostensibly there to provide humanitarian support end up getting co-opted by the Hamas, and Hamas steals the aid that is brought in for the people and then sells it to the people and uses the money to support their operations. And they've been doing that for a long, long time. There are other NGOs like this that have been implicated with ties to, this is just 5 that I found in a quick search, but there are another one is the Bisson Center for Research and Development. Some of the larger uh, charities, Muslim charities in the world are, let me see if I have a list of those. The Islamic Relief USA, IRUSA, one of the major Muslim American charities, which is focused on issues like homelessness, poverty, and hunger, apparently, and supporting Hamas. The Zakat Foundation for America, these are Muslim charities specifically. Muslim Aid USA, a lot of these are very specifically raising money and then giving that money to countries and causes that we would absolutely be 100% against here in the United States. But they're raising money in the United States. And so whenever you hear this, like, oh, help the children, well, you need to do a little more research than that and really drill down on this stuff to figure out if you're giving money to something that's going to be supporting something you disagree with. Now, going back to the when I was in the military, just to tell you my story, when you're in the military, they come through every year and they push this thing called the Combined Federal Campaign on folks in the military. So every military member is encouraged to donate to the Combined Federal Campaign. They take the money right out of your paycheck, and so you don't even see it. It comes out before you actually, I'm gonna make sure my flight's not boarding. Before you see your pay, it just comes right out, super easy. And they say, yeah, this is a great way to give to charity. There's over 4,000 charities you can choose from. And, you can imagine you're a 19, 20-year-old kid and here's how it works. In theory, this is not obligatory at all. It's not compulsory. It's something that they offer to you that if you'd like to give to charity and make it easy on yourself, you can have it taken out of your paycheck and you can give to any of these 4,000 charities that you deem fit. In practice, it doesn't really work that way, because what happens is the battalion commander says in a meeting with all the company commanders, all right, look, this will look good on your quarterly report, your performance report, if you have a high rate of participation in the CFC. And so then the company commanders go back to their platoon commanders and they say, you had better get all of your people giving to the CFC. And so the platoon commanders then go to the squad leaders and the platoon sergeants and say, I want every man in the platoon signed up for the CFC, and this better happen. This is coming straight from the top. This is how it works in the military. Something that starts out as a suggestion at the battalion or regimental level ends up being an absolute ironclad, compulsory, mandatory fun thing when it gets down to the privates at the bottom. That's just how it works. Okay? And I'm sure that the regimental commander did not mean it to be compulsory. He just when he suggests something, I'd really like to see a very high rate of participation in this, then by the time it gets down to the Joes on the front lines, that man, you're gonna do this. You better make it happen. And so we did. They came and they said, you're gonna give to this. You're gonna give something every month to the CFC. We'd say, oh, okay. But when you're 19, 20 years old, you don't know what you want to, you got 4,000 choices. Like, you don't know which one to choose. So you look at it and they give you a list. Back when I was doing it, it was on paper. They gave you these flyers and they listed them from like the most popular to the least popular. There weren't near as many choices back then. Well, guess what was at the very, very top? The most popular one was UNICEF. Give to the children. And so you go, okay, fine, whatever, give $20 a month to here. You just check that off. Give it to the children. That sounds good. I can, feel good about that. It's one less thing I have to worry about. And so everybody does it. And that money is going from this combined federal campaign. They're giving tens or hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And it doesn't say how much. I haven't been able to find. Let me just see if I can figure that out. 70 military personnel last year gave $70.1 million to the combined federal campaign. Now, not all of that is going to, to UNICEF, and not all of UNICEF's money is going to support extremism, but some portion of it is, okay? But here's the thing that really makes me upset about that. If you go look at those lists that I was telling you of these Muslim charities, the biggest Muslim charities out there are the Islamic Relief USA and Zakat Foundation of America. Both of those are on the list for CFC. You can give to those if you want. Guess what's not on the CFC list? Samaritan's Purse, CBN, Operation Blessing, not there. They're not on those lists because apparently they don't qualify. So if you wanted to give to Samaritan's Purse through Billy Graham Association, you can't do that through the CFC, but you can give to the Islamic Relief USA, which part of its money is definitely going to support extremism. Now, if that doesn't make your head explode, don't know what will. I don't know what will. And there's like we can continue down this rabbit hole and find more and more and more. And this is one of the reasons why I think it's very important that if you're going to give to a charity, that you give to something that you know. Give to your church. Give to a local charity where you know what they're doing with the money. That's one of the reasons why I think people really love to help people through the hot zone, is because if I'm somewhere and I find a single mother that just lost her home and I do an interview with her and show it to you, and then you say, I want to help that woman, you can donate money to the hot zone and I'll go give it to that woman and show you what we did with it. And that way you can have a direct impact, and you're not funding some CEO's $900 million a year salary or anything like that. You're giving money directly through the magic of the internet to people who need it most. And I think that look, there are websites out there like Charity Navigator that will help you kind of figure out what the overhead is, because some of these charities have massive overhead. Some of them spend almost all their money, all the money you give to them, they put out to try to raise more money. So like one of the reasons that I don't belong to the American Legion, for example, is that the American Legion spends a unbelievable amount, percentage of the donations it gets just raising more donations, sending out mailers, spamming the heck out of everybody. And if I'm giving money to this organization, I don't want you spending my money sending me mailers trying to get more money. I want you spending my money on things that actually help people. So you need to pay attention to that stuff. And one of the reasons I like Operation Blessing, for example, is because you look on Operation Blessing on Charity Navigator, they have one of the lowest overheads of any charity out there. It's like 0.7%. Compared to the US government, which their overhead is about 40%, meaning for every dollar they bring in taxes, only 60 cents of it actually gets out to any kind of program. The rest gets eaten up in bureaucratic garbage in Washington, D.C. And if you've ever not visited Washington, D.C., you only have to go to D.C. to see that a lot of the tax dollars that they collect from you end up staying there and paying for people's country club memberships and luxury cars. So this is a very important issue. I wanted to bring it to your attention, and I've got to go get on an airplane here in a minute. No, I'm on my way home. I'm going to get to go home to Panama for about a week, and then we're off again traveling. Connie and I will be again. So I appreciate all of you watching. I'm just looking through here to see if there's any major questions I can answer. Why are U.S. soldiers called GI? GI stands for government issue, Aliu, and it's just a joke. You know, like everything the Army gives you when you join the Army is government issue. It says right on it. So when you're wearing your uniform around, somewhere on that uniform it says government issue, and the cots you're sleeping on and everything says government issue. So it's just it's a joke that started a long time ago. It is an atrocity, yes. Let's see here. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much for watching. And I wanted to do a 30-minute live, so there we are, right just at over 30 minutes. I appreciate all of you, and there will be more coming. I'm putting together more so I can make stories out of this that can show you more of what is happening to your money and how it gets misspent when the government's using it, and why we need a smaller, more limited government. All right, so God bless you all. Thank you much for watching, and we'll see you next time from Panama. Take care.